And welcome, my friends, to the Joel Comm Show. And I'm glad that you're here today because this is going to be a good one. And to get started, I want to tell you a little story. And it's a story about a guy who was, by the way, if somebody, since we're live here, oh, there we go. And nothing like a few glitches to start your day, but welcome to those of you who are here for the Joel Comm Show and those of you watching in replay. It's not live, but it feels like it. And I'm seeking to bring you the best in education, enlightenment, entertainment, and a healthy helping of flying monkeys. Because well, I mean, it's its own answer. Who doesn't need flying monkeys, right? So we're going to jump right in today because I've got a very special guest here whose time I really want to respect. And I was going to start out by telling a story about how this connection even happened, but I think I'm going to wait till he's on here and we're going to share stories so that he's not just standing by. His name is Tom Ziglar. And Tom is the CEO of the Ziglar Corporation, and of course the son of the great Zig Ziglar, who has had a massive impact on my own life. And today, to talk about a number of things, completely unscripted, we're going to bring Tom in here. It looks like Blab's got some new stuff on their interface too. Interesting. You guys did a little update on us out there. Excellent. Hey, thanks, sir, Jason. Hey, Tom, how are you?
Man, I'm doing good. How are you doing, Joel?
Excellent to see you, and welcome to the Blabs.
Well, it's great to be here, and I don't know if you can see through on the camera over here, but we've got our Facebook going on. We've got Periscope going on. So everybody say hello to Mr. Joel Comm. He's the man. And when you talked about what do you want to talk about on our program and zombies in the workplace, of course, I get excited about anything, but especially zombies. So I'm excited to be here, Joel.
Well, let's. I want to see more of your face. If you can turn your camera towards you, because right now you got about half of you. Yeah, if you want to lean, that's good. Now we got all of you, all the Ziglar, all up in our business all the time.
Okay, good deal.
So we're tri-casting right now.
Yeah, we're tri-casting with 3 different modems at the same time.
That is fantastic. Well, we haven't seen each other in a few years, and so it's good to see your face.
It's good to be seen, as Dad used to say. It's been busy, and it's always something, right? So it's good to be here with you.
Here's the story I was going to tell, and I'll tell it now. It was about 1989, Tom, that I was introduced to your dad's work, and I think I had read Born to Win. Had a massive impact on me as a young man, and it was See You at the Top, rather, was the book. And I was invited to go to a Born to Win conference. And, at that time, I think it was $500 for the 3-day event, which was quite an investment.
That's a long time ago, Joel.
It was. I know. I'm feeling old, but we're the same age, so it's okay. We can, although I'm grayer than you are. So unless you got something artificial going on, I think my kids aged me faster than yours. Oh, well, you got that. There you go. Okay, so we're putting it off. I went to the seminar. It was the first motivational event I'd ever been to, and it was truly life-changing. The event itself and what I learned from reading his books and listening to his tapes just really helped to set a course for my life. And I don't know if it ever gets old for you to hear that.
Well, I tell you, one of the things that I love most, and it's why I mean, of all the things that are to love about social media, this is it. Is that people from around the world will tell me their Zig story. And I always take time to hear the Zig story because you can see it in their eyes. One of the things that'll happen to me is I'll go and speak, And when I'm done speaking, I'll meet somebody at the side of the room. You know how that is. And they'll literally have a tear in their eye. And they'll tell me about how Dad's message and material changed their life. And it's at that moment that I know that they literally spent thousands of miles in the car with Dad. And what I mean by that is they were listening to him on audio, whether it was the old cassette tape or CD, and these days it's MP3 or, just broadcasting straight from the podcast that we have. So I never get tired of hearing a Zig story. So I'm excited to hear yours. I know you've shared it with me before, but I'm excited to hear yours again.
Well, I too spent just countless hours. In fact, I bought both the See You at the Top tape set and the Secrets of Closing the Sale tape set. And as I went through them, I would take a pen, and on the cassettes, I would mark off once I had listened through it, so I knew where I was. And I probably marked off each of those tapes 5 or 6 times, going through all. And there was like a dozen or 16 in the set, so it was a lot of content. And so, he was real impactful. And it was, you have those few times in your life where you have something that, almost is supernatural in flavor. And it was at the Born to Win event. I was sitting in that room. I was a speech communications major, Tom, but I had no desire to give speeches or do public speaking. The thought of public speaking actually terrified me to no end. Petrified me. There was just no desire to. But it was at that event that as your dad was talking, I had what I can only categorize as a vision. Like in my mind's eye, all of a sudden I saw myself speaking in front of these vast audiences. And I thought, what? Wait, what? No, that's not something I even want to do. And then I put it on the shelf. And I thought, well, I have no desire to pursue public speaking. And in 2005, 10 years after having had a successful internet business, I had a really popular book that taught people how to make money with Google AdSense. And all of a sudden, I was getting asked to go speak at events. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is really happening. And today, it's my favorite thing to do, and I feel like I'm just getting started. And when people ask me in podcast interviews what my favorite quote is from a writer or a speaker, I always say that you get what you want when you help enough other people get what they want.
I love it. So let me ask you a question, Joel. Dad's quote that you just mentioned, and for our Facebook and Periscope people, this is the one that they know the most too. Dad said, you can have everything in life you want if you'll just help enough other people get what they want. How do you know when you are living that philosophy? Because, the grind comes, we get under pressure, we've got to make ends meet. We've got to do things that just to pay the bills sometimes. But in your own life, how do you know when you're living in the middle of that in the best way?
I feel like it's echoed back in the lives that you touch, because people tell you, just like I'm telling you, the testimonial, you hear from people how grateful they are for the little things you do, the things that you put out there that you teach. I've been doing a lot of Snapchat lately, and I've been trying to put good content out there, and people give you immediate feedback. Thank you for sharing that. I never heard that. That was inspirational. I'm going to use that. And I think that's it, is people will tell you, and here's the deal, as well as I do, that most people don't say anything. So if you've got a handful of people that are saying thank you, that means you're actually multiplying that times 50 to 100 or more in terms of the lives you're actually touching. So, I don't know if that's what you're looking for, but that's kind of, for me, that's a big age.
And I love what you said, because it's a great thing for us all to remember is a very small percentage of the people will respond positively. And so the benefit of responding positively when you've been touched is you get the greatest benefit of all. When you share a testimonial with somebody, when you tell somebody how much you appreciate them, you actually get more of an endorphin rush than the person who's receiving it. And it's magnified, it's paying it forward, because now the person who you've honored with that you've said, I appreciate what you've done, that inspires them to keep doing it.
It does, and it goes back to the old proverb that it really is better to give than to receive. It's always nice to hear compliments, but I think it blesses me to be able to share a story about how somebody else has impacted me. And you and I met in 2010. I want to say it was October. I remember because I had some landmark things happening at that time in my life, and it was at Kerry Wilkerson's conference. Right. I believe it was in Dallas.
Yes, it was. The Barefoot Executive, Kerry Wilkerson in Dallas.
Yeah, and so that was where I got to circle back. Well, you and I met, and I met your sister Julie, and I got to sit down and have a talk with your dad, and really a dream come true. Share the stage, with him. Something you got to do a whole bunch, but for me, not being related, it was such an honor to come full circle to that place.
Let me share a story from that event because I remember it like it was yesterday. Dad, that was the time when he was doing interviews. For those of you who aren't familiar with Dad's story, he had a fall and it caused a brain injury where he lost a short-term memory. So my sister Julie would go on stage with him and conduct an interview. And so Kerry invited us to her conference, and Dad did his presentation, and Julie was interviewing him and basically keeping him on track, right? Because he knew the stories. He just couldn't remember what he just told. So sometimes he would start to tell the same story. Well, he was done done speaking. And this is a time when Dad, his health was, it was on the decline, but it was also the time when he was the most transparent. It was a time in his life when you could tell that, everything he'd studied and lived for in God's hand was holding him in a unique way, in a very special way. Well, we're walking down the hall, and it's just myself and Mom and Dad, or it could have been Julie, and this young girl comes up. She had to be 12. And she comes up to Dad, and she smiles like she wants to say something. And Dad leans over like he used to, and he leans over to her, and he looks at her, and he kind of squints his eyes. And he says, "You know what?" And this little girl said, "What?" And he said, "You need to write a book." And so they had a little conversation like a dad conversation would with the kids. They were always real special because he would lean over and get on their level and make them feel good. Well, later on at lunch, this lady comes up and she goes, Tom, I wanted to say this. Your dad, did you know that he talked to my daughter this morning? And I go, "Oh, was she the girl who came out in the hallway?" And the lady said, "Yes." And she said, I asked her before coming to this conference because she's 12 and it's kind of an adult conference, but there's a lot of good things for kids to learn there. If you bring your kids to these things, it's just awesome. She said, "But I asked her before I went, I said, do you want to come with me?" And she said, "My daughter said, yeah, I think I do." And she said, "Well, why do you want to come?" And the little girl before the conference told her mom, "I want to come because I want to write a book." And it's just like this, this bolt went through me when she told me that. And it's how plugged in Dad was to loving people and being there for each person in the room. And he had that. So I remember that event like it was yesterday just because of that one thing.
Well, I just dug back through my photos and I found this one from many, many moons ago. And, let's see, I've got a couple more here. I believe I have one. Oh, there we are. Who are those handsome guys right there?
I had more hair.
I think I did too. And then I had brought one of my ka-ching buttons with me to show your dad, and I still have. He signed one of my ka-ching buttons for me, and that's in my treasure box now. I love that.
Well, I want you to. Your ka-ching button has been hit many times in my office, and I've ambushed people with the flying monkey on several occasions. So.
Yeah, aren't they fun?
They're awesome.
I've got one peer who actually wanted ordered ka-ching buttons for their whole office, and every time there's a sale, somebody will hit one, and there's like a chain of ka-ching sounds that go off through the whole place. And, pretty funny stuff. So, Tom, you're in a really interesting position, and I'm just this is really candid for me. This is unscripted, and there's a couple things that I think make your scenario really fascinating to me. First of all, was the tone that your dad set. One of the things that really impressed me is he was one of the few entrepreneurs, inspirational, motivational speakers that I saw that really integrated their faith with what he taught, and seemed to have inculcated a great sense of that into you and your family as well. The other thing, and then I want you to speak to both of it, is, you have really family mantle in a way. I think there's a lot of times where you've got a generational thing, and you've got a famous father. It's like the sense of, how do I live up to that? And I get the sense that you have embraced that, and that isn't your question at all of how to live up to it. It seems like your question is, how do I carry that greatness forward and continue spreading that message? And I really admire that. So feel free to speak to both of those.
Yeah. So when it comes to the faith aspect, and the second question is, how do you live up to the mantle that Dad passed on to our family, and and personally? Really, the answer is pretty close to the same answer. When it comes to faith, Dad, when he raised me and he talked about his own faith, he was able to share it from the stage in a unique way, because it was so real, it was so transparent, and it was unconditional. And so what that means is that Dad knew that his only responsibility when he spoke from the stage was to speak God's truth in love. That's it. And so a lot of times when people bring faith onto the big stage or in the workplace, it's a hammer, right? It's my way or the highway. And people can be repelled by that. And Dad always thought that honey is more attractive to bring people in. So he always wanted to demonstrate to people, hey, you need to have some of what I've got. And so when he would share his faith that way and make what he had attractive without putting down anyone, then people would say, you know what, I think I might check that out. And just as an evidence of this, I was speaking about a year ago in London, and I love London. I love doing international things. And in the room, it was a small room. We had about 40 people in the room, and 40 of them came from 50 different countries. You know what I mean? London is so international. So we had atheists, we had Muslims, we had Hindus, we had Christians, we had people who thought they were Christians. We had, lost. It was just an awesome room. And they were all there because of the legacy, right? Zig Ziglar, that's what we were branding the event. And I asked the room a question. I said, how many of you want me to share 100% of what Zig said made him successful? Or how many of you want me to share 60% of what made him successful? And so the whole room raises their hand on the 100%, right? And I say, that's great, because as you know, my father said that his faith was a huge part of what made him successful. And so when I share the faith that we talk about, I want you to look at it from that perspective. And did you know it was one of the greatest days of any place? It wasn't, there was nothing politically correct about it. There was nothing off-putting or uncomfortable about it. People in that room from all walks of life were able to see that. And what Dad taught me, and as far as the mantle goes, is Dad said this. He said, son, whatever you want to do in your life, all I really care about is that you do it with 100% integrity and 100% effort. See, he never said, I want you to be in sales, which he loved that I like sales. He never said, I want you to be a speaker. He never said, I want you to work at the company. He just told me, whatever you do, do it with 100% integrity and 100% effort. And so I didn't have the burden of having to follow in his footsteps, because let me tell you, nobody's ever going to speak like Zig Ziglar. It's just an impossibility. And then he said something else. He said it to me and he said it to my sisters. And he said, you will never know real freedom in the business until I'm gone.
Interesting.
And I didn't understand. When he said it, I didn't know what he meant, right? Because I didn't feel like I was locked down or trapped. And I wasn't, right? Because we were operating our business to maximize his ability to influence millions, because that's what he did. But after he'd been gone a while, I realized those words came back to me, and he never said, do it like I did it. He always told me, God's given you gifts. He's given you talents. You're the only one in the world who has those. Nobody else can do that the way you do it. And you've got to breathe life into what you do and the business and everything in your own way. Right? And so for all those years, I was helping move the company along to support him and his efforts. And then all of a sudden now his words come back to me. Hey, do it with integrity, do it with effort, and do it with the gifts that God gave you, because you can't do it any other way. And so that gave me the freedom, and that gave me I don't know, it's not necessarily a comfort level. It's just a knowing that says, go for it, right? Do it and use what you've been given. Don't try to be somebody else. And so for those of you who are listening, whether you're on Facebook or in this, man, I love Blab. I'm seeing all these comments going up and down. This is my first Blab session, but
I have a feeling it won't be your last.
Yeah, because I like to blab. So it's just a great name. But that should be an encouragement to everyone, is you look at your own gifts that God's given you, and that's what you focus on. You're not trying to be somebody else. Integrity, you can't debate about that. You got to have it if you want to be successful, right? And effort, oh my gosh, you've got to put in the hours, right? The effort, the work to make it happen. But unless you're using what God's given you, it's never gonna be as fruitful as it could have been.
So does I imagine that growing up in the Ziglar household was an amazing time, and I know your dad traveled quite a bit, but I also get the feeling that he was just a really good dad when you were a little boy.
Oh my God!
And into your teens.
As good as he was on stage, he was even better at home. I mean, just bottom line. Now, here's the thing that most people don't realize, is that he was much more of an introvert at home. So he was quiet. He was thinking. He was working on his next book. He prepared and studied 3 hours every day before most people woke up. Whenever he did a presentation, he spent at least 3 hours just on that presentation, even though he'd given it thousands of times. But he was also extremely intentional. And so he marked time down for Mom, for me, for my sisters, and Dad and I got to play a lot of golf, and so we had a relationship there. So and he was so the things that he would do. I mean, just as an encouragement to the parents out there, if Dad ever felt like he had made a mistake or spoken too harshly to one of us, oh my gosh, you could tell that he'd prayed about it. He'd come back and he would apologize to his kids. And half the time we're like, Dad, what are you apologizing for? You didn't do anything, right? We needed that kick in the pants or whatever it was, right? But that's just the way it was. And when you learn that a real man or a real woman apologizes, asks for forgiveness, right? Then it changes the scope of all the relationships that you have going forward.
Well, you learn so much, just family life, just being part of that family, that it's obvious that you were perfectly positioned to just almost effortlessly slip into the position of running the company, and now taking a message of motivation and inspiration, all these personal development things out into the world. And you do quite a bit of traveling and speaking yourself.
I do, but don't let people get confused with effort, that effortless word.
You make it look easy, put it that way.
Kind of like the duck on the water, looking calm and cool and collected on top, but the feet are going like crazy.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, but you're not your dad. You're you, and you're unique in your delivery and your heart. What is your favorite part of what you do? In business.
In business, of all the things that I do, my most favorite thing is we have a program called our Ziglar Legacy Certification. And what we do is we certify people to carry on the legacy. And they do that by coming through a course, and we equip them to go out and teach our 3 core curriculums. One is called How to Be Your Best You, Building the Best You, Building Winning Relationships, and Goal Setting and Achievement. And these are legendary programs that have been taught to tens of thousands of people through the years. We know they get results, right? Because we've seen the testimonials and all of that. But here's the reason why it's so significant and so meaningful is that, Dad's ability was to communicate to 50,000 people in a stadium. We estimate that he impacted 250 million people in his life.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. The millions and millions of downloads and everything else. I mean, it's just a crazy number. But where my purpose comes in is I love equipping others to take this message out. And so I get excited. Dad used to say this, real joy is when you help someone else be, do, or have more than they thought possible. Right? That's the joy. And so for me, my greatest satisfaction is our certification program. When somebody comes in and they have a heart, their heart is they want to change their community. They want to impact other people's lives. They want to help them be, do, and have more, reach a higher level of success and a higher level of significance. That's what they want to do. And when I can give them the tools to do that and equip them and support them, that's where my greatest satisfaction comes from.
Joel Comm here, and I'm with the great Tom Ziglar. And if you guys have any questions, want to hop on and say hello, I know that Tom would be blessed to hear you share your Zig story as well. And of course, ask any questions that you might want to pose of him. So now, as I go to your site, and of course, we titled this blab about zombies in the workplace. And I don't know, I'm not a Walking Dead guy. I don't, the zombies and body parts falling off and all that, not really my thing. But I get the zombie motif, right? They're zombies. So talk a little bit about that.
So a Gallup study comes out, and I'm not a big fancy word guy. I don't like words like engagement. I mean, I know what engagement is, and I know from the corporate language and lingo what engagement is about. And so what engagement means is that somebody in the workplace is engaged. They get there early, they help others, they want to see the company, the organization do well. If they're the business owner, they're in it for a purpose and a passion. And in fact, if they're a team member, they also feel a purpose and a passion, right? They feel a part of the mission. They know that what they do matters. The sad part is that depending on what year the poll is done or the study's done, between 69 and 71% of the workforce in the United States is what we call disengaged. They're just going through the motions, right? It's like they're a pinball in a pinball machine. And, you can just see them going to work, right? Their arms are out in front of them. They're putting one foot in front of the other. The reason they're there is because their friend got them a job 20 years ago, and then they got a promotion. Then somebody else moved them over. And it was never what they wanted to do, right? It was just the next paying gig. And they thought, if I change the scenario, maybe I'll be happy, instead of determining what they wanted. And so I call these people zombies. And so leadership's challenge and our challenges as individuals is we need to move away from the zombie land, right? We need to create a connection between our dream and what we want to accomplish in life and what we do every day. I call that dream alignment. So that's what the Zombies in the Workplace kind of mission that I was on last year was, helping organizations and individuals understand how they can move from zombie to energizer, to connecting their dream with what they do every day.
So what are some of the things that we can do? What are the initiatives that we can take to come into alignment so that we are excited to go to work and not just going through the motions?
The number one thing is I have this I'm kind of a nerd, and for all the nerds out there, high five.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I have this quote, this saying, and the quote's this. It says, "Your dreams are the edges of the puzzle of your life." Your dreams are the edges of the puzzle of your life. And so when you do an old-fashioned tabletop puzzle, where do you start? Right? You start on the edges, and then you fill in the puzzle. And so in life, what happens is we never write our dreams down, our goals. We never put the edge around us. And so we're stuck in our comfort zone. And I was reading a book by Stephen Fry called True Freedom. And in the book, it talked about a study they did at an elementary school. They built this elementary school. It was completely done, except for they hadn't put a fence around the playground. So all these kids go out to recess and they watched them. These behavioral psychologists watched these kids play on the playground. And what they discovered is they all stayed on the playground equipment right next to the school building. They had all this space, all this territory to go out and have fun, but they didn't use any of it. They used 10% of what they could. And then the following week, over the weekend, they put the fence around the playground, right? The border, the edge. Immediately, the kids went out to recess and they started playing football and catch and tag. They used all the space. And to me, that's the symbol of our life. You know, we are sitting here frustrated in zombie land, playing on the playground equipment that we're familiar with, and we don't get off of it until we write a dream out there. You know, this is, I want to travel. I want to fund this nonprofit. I want to build this house. I want to go on, you know, and I want to help my kids go to school. Whatever my dream is, my passion, I want to start my own business. And then they write that out, and then the brain, because I'm a nerd and I know how it works, when you fall asleep at night with the written down goal, right, you've transferred that dream into a goal. You literally fall asleep and your brain puts the puzzle pieces together from the playground equipment in the middle out to the edge. And your life puzzle gets big. And so the number one thing that we can do is really just go deep for our dreams and write them down, articulate them, and start putting a why behind the what. See, going to work every day is the what. But why do we go to work? And it should be to fund our dream.
I love how visual you create my mind. I'm getting here all of a sudden. Not sure why I did, but that just made me take a look at that. Your dreams are the edges of the puzzle of your life. I could almost feel my mind expanding as I thought, you know, what you want to do is have people increase their boundaries, right? Expand the boundaries of what's possible. Have you ever put that quote on a picture before?
Oh yeah, just go to my at Tom Ziglar Twitter page and look at my photos. You'll see the quote there.
That's a great one. I love that, and I love that you've got the you know, you're not satisfied just sticking with, you know, what your dad said. You've got your fresh, original thoughts of your own, and you got some stuff to say. And I could feel my brain just going out and going, wait, expand, go further, wherever it is you think your limits are, plus that, and there's more.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic. You know, hit me, and I didn't look at the page, but as long as I'm so jazzed about your original quotes, hit me with another one that would be posted there.
Well, there I have, I say work for a dream and not a paycheck. Okay. And that's connecting the two. You know, I grew up with that. I grew up, you know, the son of Zig Ziglar, and he called him an opportunity clock, right? Not an alarm clock, an opportunity clock, because alarm is negative, opportunity is positive. And he rarely set his opportunity clock. And the reason was real simple. He was working for a dream, right? And so when you wake up in the morning and you're waking up to go fulfill a dream, it's not a burden, right? You don't want to go, oh, you know, can I get a few more hours? You're thinking, you know, wow, today is going to be the day where I get one step closer to my dream. And so that's why I say work for a dream instead of a paycheck. There's a friend of mine, Howard Partridge. He has a great quote. He says this is for business owners, but if you work someplace, you can just put your career in there. He says your business exists for one reason and one reason only, as a vehicle to help you achieve your life goals. Your career exists for one reason and one reason only, as a vehicle to help you achieve your life goals. And then the story you tell yourself along the way is what determines, I believe, so much of what you're going to accomplish. What is it in your life that you're going to fulfill? So, we have a lot of quotes, like, for example, goals connect activity to accomplishment. And so I have a metaphor of a bicycle. And if you've ever been on a bike, and you're spinning because the chain's off the sprocket, goals are actually the links in the chain. Goals are the links in the chain that connect activity to accomplishment. And so one of the quotes I have is, I say, there's only one thing worse than setting a goal and not achieving it. And that's setting the wrong goal and achieving it. And how many people do you know who are no longer in medicine, no longer in law, no longer an accountant, right? Because the goal they had wasn't theirs.
Right. Somebody else put it out there for them and said, here's what you should be when you grow up.
Yeah.
Whatever that is. By the way, I'm good with being an adult, but this whole grown-up thing, I'm never going to get that.
Yeah.
I'm out. I'm out on the whole grown-up thing. That just doesn't work for me. I see we have somebody calling in, but I think we're having a little buggy thing here with Blab again. If somebody wants to let Text Stud know, when I click to show callers and let them in, nothing happens. So Jason, if you want to become a host here again. Okay, he's working on it. Great. The beauty of being in beta.
Yeah.
So Tom, I got to say, I'm a little envious. And here's what I'm envious of. Many of us did not have the privilege and the blessing of growing up in a household with a family that stayed together, where the parents were just fully vested in their children. And as a father now with two young adult children, I did the best I could. But I wonder, as a legacy, did you know your grandparents, Zig's parents?
No, I didn't. My mom, her father died when she was 10. And her mother died when I was like 6 or 7 years old. My father's father, Dad's dad, died when Dad was 5. And his mother died when I was 8 or 9. So I never knew my grandparents really, because we didn't live in the same area. I didn't know them. And so you say that, so many people don't have the same luxury like us growing up in Ziglar, right? And I'll tell you, we're the most blessed family ever. And I don't ever take that for granted. His dad died when he was 5. He went to work when he was 6. He never did well in school. When he got into his career, he did horrible in the beginning. And then one day, somebody spoke into his life. And because of that, he figured some things out. And so this is what I would tell people who haven't had the blessings that we've had, maybe the broken home or the tough situation or whatever, is that I can literally look back at Dad's life. And there was a point in his life when he made a conscious decision to become the best husband, the best father, the best person he could become. And
so it was really self-motivated.
Right. He made a decision. And so here's the habit. This is the number one habit that I learned from him. And if anybody you can change your family tree with just this one decision. His dad then studied every day, and he put wisdom in, and he read the right things on how to be the right husband, the right father, and the right kind of person. So he spent thousands and thousands and thousands of hours reading God's word, and he read hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books on parenting and relationships and, how to help other people become successful. And so he really did say, that old Adam, garbage in, garbage out, good stuff in, good stuff out. It's really true. And there is hope. So if you've been through that tough time, I'm not saying it's easy, but you can make a conscious decision to change the input that you have in your life. And over a period of time, that can only change the output for the better.
Thanks for that, Tom. Kelly, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hey, Joel, how are you?
Excellent. Good to see you.
Hi, Tom.
How are you, Kelly?
It's a pleasure to see you. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing better than good, but that's like a genetic requirement being a Ziglar.
Much love to your dad. I mean, he was an awesome man.
Oh,
So what have you got, Kelly? You got a story or a question?
Really, I just wanted to comment on what Tom was saying and what you were saying, Joel, about your dreams. I think that goals and dreams are important, and I think that our dreams can change from day to day. But one thing that Tom said that was really profound was that, if we write our goals down and we write our dreams down, we have them on paper and we can visually look at those, and we can remind ourselves daily to strive to get those dreams, to go after those dreams and aspire to be better people, and to go and just pursue happiness and pursue joy and pursue love, and also fulfill our dreams and include other people in those dreams, I think is a good thing to do. And I don't think we're ever too old. When you said, about the grown-up thing, yeah, I don't think I got the grown-up thing conquered at all.
I can't find one anywhere around me.
I know.
But
Well, thanks, Kelly. I appreciate those thoughts. That's really nice. Tom, do you have anything you want to say to that?
Yeah, there's a couple of things, Kelly, and I'll use some practical steps. His dad had a quote. He said, go as far as you can see, and when you get there, you'll be able to see even further. Right?
wow.
And so our dreams do change, right? Because we grow as a person, and we think, okay, I deserve the 2-bedroom house. And then after a few years, it's like, hey, why not 3-bedroom? So that's just a kind of a practical, tactical approach. So our dreams do change. And then all the research on goal setting is real simple. There's three characteristics that goal achievers have that are different than what I call goal setters. A goal setter, you could just simply write down a goal. That's great. But goal achievers do these 3 things. They write them down in detail. And we teach a 7-step process where we talk about benefits and skills and knowledge and people and the plan of action, the deadline, and all that. Number 2 is they work on them every day.
Mm-hmm.
And number 3 is they have an accountability partner.
Exactly. And I think that is so important in life today. I just want to thank you guys for letting me pop on, and I'm listening and enjoying. And Joel, much love to you, and much love to you, Tom.
Thank you.
And let's all aspire to make our dreams come true. And I just want to say hats off to you.
Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks, Kelly. Appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I love it. So, I'm wondering, Tom, does Ziglar company offer some sort of goal setting book or guide?
Yes, we do. And I'll mention a few things. We have our performance planner, which is the ultimate goal setting system. It's actually old-fashioned paper and a leather binder.
Wow.
It's amazing. Everybody wants it electronically, and that's something we're working on. But I really got to be honest and say that when you're working on your dreams and your goals, there's something about writing it down with the good old-fashioned pen or pencil, right? It's more than just a scheduler. It's more than just keeping your calendar. So highly, highly recommend that.
I just put a link to it right there in the chat room for anybody that's interested. It looks like a beautiful leather-bound book.
Yep. The other thing that I'm doing, which is my new program for the year, is it's called Live to Win. It's our new, live interactive webinar series that we do, and I teach goal setting in there, so it's more in depth. And we actually go through the wheel of life. So on the wheel, we have 7 spokes: physical, mental, spiritual, family, financial, career, and personal. And you really have to have goals in each one of those areas. So for those who really want to go deep in that, And this whole thing got started, this live to win concept got started when I was speaking in Australia, and I had a question from the audience, and the question was, what's the fastest way to success? And Joel, I'm 51 now, so I was 50 at the time, and nobody had ever asked me that question before. The questions are always like, well, what are 3 things I can do to be more successful? Or do you have a system that I could do? Nobody had ever asked, what's the fastest way? And I think it's really the question that's on everybody's heart, because nobody.
I can't wait to hear your answer.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you, because I didn't know what to say. No, I'm just kidding.
I actually do have an answer, but it's probably going to be different than yours. I want to hear yours.
Okay, so I want to hear yours too. So just out of my mouth, I said, the fastest way to success is to replace bad habits with good habits. And it just kind of sunk in, and somebody actually repeated it back to me during the day. And I said, what? I said that? I couldn't believe it. So I went and Googled it because I knew somebody else had to say that, but nobody had said it that way. And so for the last 5 months, I've been like researching that to find out the validity of it. And I'm here to tell you that in every area of your life, if you just take one little teeny bad habit, and this week you get rid of that and you replace it with a little teeny good habit, and you do that every week, your year will be the most amazing year you've ever had. Dad.
It's a mic drop right there. I mean, you should just be like, and walk away, because you just won the internet with that. I mean, like what I was going to say, I'm okay. I got to think of something better.
But
beautiful.
Dad had this quote years ago. He said, hurricanes and tornadoes get all the publicity, but termites do more damage. And they take such little bitty bites. In our life, just as an example, the physical life that we have, if we have the habit of drinking 1 or 2 soft drinks a day, if we replace that with the good habit of 1 or 2 bottles of water or extra water versus a soft drink, that's 14 pounds a year just on 1 soft drink, everything else being the same. And then you look at that wheel that I was talking about, the physical, mental, spiritual. What if every week in one of those areas, you just had a little bad habit for a good habit? You're going to have balanced success. And that's what Dad talked about more than anything. Success is okay. Balanced success is what we want, right? We don't want to make all the money in the world and lose our family and relationships and our health in the process. It doesn't make any sense.
Right. Well, that's not really that's not really success, is it? Because you might have succeeded financially, but you failed with your family, and so that finds you right in the middle. Yeah, I like balance, and I actually gave up sodas right after college, I think, and pretty much just drink water and occasional glass or 2 of wine, which is good for you. And although I can't turn the water into wine like somebody else I know. I do enjoy them both.
Fantastic.
I love that. That's really good stuff, Tom. So when you turn to others to learn, apart from what you learned from your dad and his teachings and his books, what are some of your favorite books that you like to recommend to others?
Oh, I've got several. I love Seth Godin. In fact, on our Ziglar Show podcast, we interviewed him today. So he's going to be on our Ziglar Show. So I get his blog every day. I read his books. So anything Seth is fantastic.
Brilliant.
There's another guy that I've become good friends with. His name is Rabbi Daniel Lapin. And he's written 2 books that are fantastic, Thou Shalt Prosper and Business Secrets of the Bible. And basically it's ancient Jewish wisdom and in understanding what makes us successful. And how we can prosper, and how, like, just the simple wisdom that he has. He says, I'm kind of quoting him, but he says this. He says, when we solve a problem for somebody, we are often awarded a certificate of appreciation, which we call money. So the more problems we solve, the more certificates of appreciation that we get. And he said, I think God is most pleased with us when we are obsessively and compulsively concerned with the problems of his kids and we seek to help solve them.
I like getting certificates of
I
appreciation.
do too.
I'm a fan.
And so I was listening to Rabbi's podcast, and he said when he gets on an airplane and he sits next to somebody, he doesn't ask the question, what do you do? Instead, he says, what problems are you solving for God's children?
Wow.
And that's a mindset shift, isn't it?
Yes, totally. Well, this kind of goes to, I will answer the question because although I felt really small for a moment, I'm now back into my skin and I'm good with this. So, when people ask me what's the fastest way to make money, what I tell them is not to focus on a strategy or a tactic or any particular product or service, but to remember that none of us are really in the business of selling products or services. We're in the business of the people that we serve,
right,
with those products and services. And so what I tell people is if you don't know what else to do, go somewhere where there's other people. Go to an event, a conference, a seminar, a workshop, anywhere where you can eye to eye, shake hands, smile, and find out what people's needs are. What can I do for you? How can I help you? If you just show up where there's people and start asking that question, and you're going to discover that there is business there. That's my take on it.
I love it. And so you're right on the same page with Ziglar and the Rabbi. The Rabbi, one of the principles that he talks about is that we were built for connection. And he gives an example. If you're a farmer and you decide, I'm going to go solo, I'm going to raise my own crops, I'm going to have my own cattle, I'm going to milk my own cows, I'm going to drill my well for the water, I'm going to make my own electricity. The result is you're going to do everything below average at best. But as soon as you specialize and you say, this is the problem I'm going to solve, this is the crop I'm going to raise, then you get really, really good at that. But in order to be successful, you have to connect all over the community. You have to hook up to somebody else's power. You have to get the water brought in. You need the materials to make whatever you're doing. You need lots of help. And so when we think about it, we were built for community. We have a longing for belonging. And the way we really maximize that is we look out and we say, what problems are there that we have the solution to that we can help solve? And so our mindset is not, hey, what can you give me? My mindset is, how can I help solve this problem? And then I guess I'm going off on this because it's on my brain, but in Hebrew, so if anybody out there knows Hebrew, that's awesome. Usually when I speak, I ask if somebody knows Hebrew and nobody does. And so then I tell them I can make the rest of this up. But
those are my people.
Yes. So you can tell me if this is true, but what I've
I probably won't know, but go for it. I'll fake it.
In the Hebrew word that describes the transaction of sell or sales, there's two words. And one of them, and in the Hebrew language, words have incredible depth and meaning, right? They're very moral. And so there's one word that's just kind of an average word that just means a transaction. But then there's another word for sale that is very moral. It's very deep. It's rich. It's got everything around it. And what it really means is looking into someone's future and anticipating a problem that they're going to have someday, and then making them aware of it and solving that problem before they even have it.
Wow. That is a brilliant definition of sales. I love that.
And so for those who are in business, watching this, oh my gosh. I mean, when you start thinking about solving problems and helping people avoid things before they even come up, is there a greater calling than what we do than that? I mean,
we solve problems.
That's right.
I love it. Tom Ziglar, my guest today. And thanks so much, Tom, for coming on here. An hour flies by.
It does. It's already an hour. Oh my gosh.
I know. Hey, if you are ever in the Denver area, I would love to take you out for a meal, and I hope that we can see each other sometime soon. Ziglar.com for the official Ziglar personal development website with all kinds of fantastic training, books. There's a Ziglar On Demand app. There's certification programs. And then your site, tomziglar.com.
All right. Perfect.
Fantastic. Thanks again, Tom. Appreciate it. We'll catch you around. And those of you joining me here in the Joel Comm Show, you know what to do now. You go out there and do good stuff.